Hey guys, this is Nick, and that's the review of the Xiaomi Redmi Note 4X. So before I start with the specs, I gotta mention that this is a budget phone and it's sold for around $150 on GearBest, which means that there will be some compromises to achieve this type of price. So let's get quickly over the specs, starting with the screen, which is an IPS LCD 5.5 inch 1080p display, which adds up to a 401 ppi pixel density. Moving on to the speaker section, there is only one speaker at the bottom side of the device, which is nonetheless decent. And speaking of sound, the Redmi Note 4X features two microphones, one hidden in the second speaker grille, and the other which helps with noise cancellation next to the IR blaster. Moreover, you won't be disappointed by the port selection, which contains a micro USB port, which pretty much contributes to the price reduction, and a headphone jack which eliminates the need for any dongles. As for the camera compartment, there is a 5 megapixel sensor on the front and a 13 megapixel one on the rear. I will be talking in depth about those cameras later on. Ultimately, the internals of this phone are none else but a Snapdragon 625 CPU and an Adreno 506 GPU, which are backed up by 3 GB of RAM for the 16 GB and 32 GB models and 4 GB of RAM for the 64 GB option. All the pre-mentioned are powered by a massive 4100 mAh battery. Let's dive deeper. The first thing I notice on a smartphone is the display, which on this phone is more than decent. It is big and clear and takes up about 72% of the front glass. Speaking of the glass, Xiaomi doesn't brag about any Gorilla Glass existing on this device, and that became apparent to me when two minor but nevertheless annoying scratches appeared at the top of the screen. Also, the display isn't laminated, and a gap between the screen and the touch digitizer is created. It doesn't irritate me so much, granted that the tablet by Apple, twice the price and more, features a non-laminated screen. Not to mention that this diminishes repair costs. Something that is irritating, however, is the rainbow effect created when I tilt the screen off axis. Well, I'd say it's acceptable at least. Now, beneath the screen there are 3 capacitive buttons which I would swap for a front-mounted fingerprint sensor, but at least this space is used and contributes to the omission of on-screen buttons. On top of the screen sits the earpiece, which does the job exceptionally well despite the reports for it not working properly, which I guess were addressed in a previous update. Next to the earpiece sit the proximity sensor and the front camera, which I will talk about later. In addition to those at the top left corner, there is a notification light which works. On the left side of the device is the SIM tray, which can be ejected with the SIM tool of doubtful quality in the box. On the bottom side is the mono speaker, which is not optimal for music listening and distorts a bit when the volume is maxed out. Next to it sits the charging port and the microphone, which in cooperation with the mic on the top do a great job of distinguishing my voice and calls. On the top side there is an IR blaster, which lets you control any device with infrared receivers such as TVs, air conditioners and thermostats from a specific range, a mic and the headphone jack, which nowadays is an anticipated feature. The back of the phone and sides consist mainly of aluminum, but the top and bottom are made of plastic in favor of signal reception. The back contains a fingerprint sensor, which functions exceptionally well and won't let you down, a dual-tone flash, the beautiful Xiaomi logo, and the main camera, which I will talk about in the end of the video. In terms of software, the phone runs MIUI 9, which is based on Android 7. MIUI is the software developed by Xiaomi itself for its phones, and I find it pretty, not heavy at all, and very customizable. I have put an iOS theme on it, and now I own an iPhone for the poor, as they say, which, by the way, I don't know if I already told you, has a headphone jack. Speaking of software, the optimization on this phone surprised me. The battery life lasts about 2 days if I'm a little conservative, and the processor combined with the 3 gigs of RAM do a fantastic job even in demanding apps and games. So, it's time for the cameras. The back camera takes 13 megapixel photos, up to 4K 30fps video and 120 fps at 720p, and has an f2.0. The front camera is pretty much the same, but can record video only up to 1080p 30fps. I didn't leave the cameras for the end because they are extremely good or bad, but because Xiaomi did a terrible job on the software side. Not only did Xiaomi deliver a camera app which takes terrible low light photos, has a maximum shutter speed of 1/60th on optimal light, and doesn't have HDR, but it also didn't implement Camera 2 API, which enables you to have manual controls. Thus, you're stuck with either the worst camera app or a third-party camera app on auto, unless you have the time and you don't care about the warranty, and unlock the bootloader, flash TWRP root, and implement Camera 2 API, which is this string of code. Either Xiaomi devs sleep on their desks, or they just want their flagships to have Camera 2 API. The video recording capabilities of this phone are exceptional for the price tag. It can record 4K 30fps, but as usual, our beloved Xiaomi devs limit it to 1080p 30fps, and you have to download a third-party camera app to shoot 4K, or flash a mod for the existing camera app. Even with manual controls, the sensors aren't comparable to flagship ones, but the photos taken with manual controls are a far cry from those without. Thank you very much for staying till the very end of the video. Leave a like if you liked it, subscribe for updates on my YouTube activity, and most importantly, comment your thoughts about this phone down below.